big head in the way. All right. Well, I guess we could start with this room. This room is just the cross-quarter days. And so it starts here with the Fool at the equinox. And the Fool is, in my deck, is always Orion. Orion with the dog star. And he is, of course, set apart from the ecliptic where all the other constellations are. And so he's not really a part of the ecliptic. So he gets to go with the equinox because that's when it's most prominent in the sky. And my story, the story that is behind all of the cross-quarter days is the trials of Isis, which is an ancient mythology. Actually, it's sort of religious mythology of Egypt. So Osiris, who was associated with Orion, is the husband of Isis. And he is murdered or dismembered, murdered by his brother, actually tricked into going into a box. So the Fool gets tricked by his brother, who is jealous of him, and he puts him in a box, and he floats him down the Nile. And Isis goes to look for him, and this is summer solstice. And as the sun is suspended, she can't find him. But what happens at solstice is that the sun is actually like right in the middle of the Milky Way. So when you say he's suspended in the water, the Milky Way was a reflection of the Nile. So the as above, so below thing happens. And here we have Isis searching for him. Well, she follows him all the way to Byblos and finds him trapped in a tree, a tamarisk tree. And she finds her way into the palace because he's now become a pillar in the temple of Byblos. And she becomes the nursemaid to the queen's baby and finds a way to get close to her husband so she can get him back. And because she's so devastated by losing her husband, she doesn't want anyone else to ever feel that again. So at night, while she's taking care of the baby, she's starting to burn the mortal parts of the baby off so that the queen will never have to feel the pain of losing her child. And one of the nights where she's working her magic, because she's a great magician, she gets caught by the queen, and the queen is like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "You got to get out of here." So she's like, "Can I have the pillar?" And she's like, "Yeah, take the pillar, take whatever you want, just go." So she gets Osiris back, takes him back, and she makes love to him to try to wake him up. And this is the Lover's card, and this would be around the time when the Nile would start to flood. And what happens with the Nile water is that it's usually blue-green, but as the flooding would happen, before the dam was put there, the water would start to turn red, and so they would take that as a sign of Osiris being caught by his brother, just as she's about to wake him up. And the water turns red, so that's the blood of Osiris. And also a sign of a renewal, because she becomes pregnant with Horus. And then Osiris becomes the god of the dead, and he's joined with his two wives, Nephthys and Isis. And if you look closely at this picture, this is the judgment card, it's actually a reflection. So when you're looking at this picture, you become Osiris, and you're looking at your own reflection. Judgment is always a reflection of the self of the self. The moon card here is not part of this cycle, and we have to flip way over there to the tower. And the tower in the journey into Egypt is not really a bad card, because I've used the Dejit tower. And when they would get to the time of the emergence, when plants would be coming out of the ground, it's equivalent to our time of the year when it's Halloween. So what happens in Egypt is the sun is so harsh that they have to grow their plants in the wintertime, what we would think would be the wintertime, because that's when the sun is gentlest. So the idea of sex and death, and the seeds going into the ground like little sarcophagi, and then the seeds emerging, is Osiris's power coming out of the ground. And so the tower is the D-jet. You can see the eyes. Those are Osiris's eyes. And he's being raised within the plant life so that you know that Osiris is alive. And then, of course, as the year gets darker and darker and the sun is losing its power, that's when Isis steals the secret name of Ra and gives it to Horus. And the image, the hieroglyph for Horus and for Osiris and for Ra is the baby within the lotus. You can often see the little baby sucking his thumb in a lotus, and that's for both of them. So when you see the Horus bird or the falcon, it can be Ra or it can be Horus. And then that brings us to the Wheel of Fortune, the last card, which is actually Imbolc today, this weekend. And it's about the stars in the sky. And this is actually from the ceiling in Dendera. And you can see all the signs of the zodiac along in the middle there. You can see Scorpio and Sagittarius and Capricorn. And all of these is where I got my information about the symbols that I used for the zodiac. And what I've gotten, information that I've gotten from Normandy Ellis is that these temples are based on ancient scrolls that were passed down generation after generation through millennia. And the Ptolemy era people, the Greeks, rebuilt the temples after Persia and Assyrians and Nubians and all the other cultures that came into Egypt had destroyed all those temples. The Greeks were the ones that built them back and restored the temples. So there you go. Is that enough?
I think we have to have Nancy decide that.
Nancy, she fell asleep.